Today I'm delighted to be joined by Mark, who is Interim Minister in the Ely villages. And Mark's already been an early adopter of Authorised Local Leadership in his context. Mark, I wonder if you'd explain to us a little bit about the context in which you're serving, but also some of the experience that you've had of local leadership in other places.
I've inherited clusters of villages who have either been in a team or a group or have been on their own, and my daily ministry is to work with them and the 11 PCCs to bring about a new plan. And it's clear that despite all the wonderful support we have from a range of other ministries, clerical and lay, we need to push forward on upskilling local leadership to give us something of a vanguard for going forward with mission and ministry. In the past, I've worked in 3 other dioceses and have been involved in team, group and individual benefice ministry. So I come to this task with a bit of experience and would only want to say that such experience as I can bring has clearly taken us down the same route that Ely has now decided we need to make a virtue of looking at authorised local leadership. We've talked elsewhere and here about focal ministry, which rather tends to give us a solo player feel, and that's clearly not my experience of how we might best achieve what we're really looking for. In the long run, there won't be just a single person like me. There might be, but hopefully there might be at least 2 of us in a rural team. Nevertheless, we cannot serve effectively 9 villages that we don't live in, and it would be wrong for the 2 villages that house the full-time clergy to feel they've got more of a grip on such ministry as is available. So it's really important that each parish has a sense of its own destiny and some sense of determining with the incumbent, with its PCC, a new direction of travel, which takes us into mission, which is a new sense of being more than just staying as we are and looking at new possibilities.
Well, I was quite struck by the word that you used about team, and actually this whole authorised local leader, it's not just about one person, is it?
No.
It's about how do we work together as a local team.
That's right.
To serve the parishes and the benefices. I wonder if you could just cast your mind back to when we first began to have sort of exploratory conversations, and what was it, or what has it been that's drawn you to authorised local leadership in this diocese? What is it that you're hoping for?
I think it's predicated on two bits of where I've come from and where the Church of England's been going for a long time. Even before I was ordained, John Tiller, who wrote his report, clearly indicated, probably 4 decades ago now, that the Church of England would not be able to sustain 14,000 stipendiary clergy, and we're now down to less than half of that nationally, and that the future of the running of parishes would have to be sustained by a much more local leadership. A more recent book, which I've enjoyed very much, by Andrew Rumsey, who's Bishop of Ramsbury in the Salisbury Diocese, another quite rural diocese. It's simply called Parish, and he plays up both the ecclesiastical but also the geographic and the sociological importance of parish. And I think in all of this, and certainly the 11 I'm currently looking after, and I've done 10 before, what's clearly important is the particular charism of each parish. Under Authorised Local Leadership, it is about seeing yourself for who you already are and running with the benefits that that brings to our work. And I think it's not about being part of some great multi-parish benefits as if that's the answer. The answers are quite local. And I think that's what this scheme should enable.
Authorised Local Leadership is not about how do we get vicars on the cheap,
No.
or what's our long-term plan to replace vicars, but I wonder if you could share something about how you've sensed your priestly ministry to have changed and evolved.
Okay. I think a phrase that has come up more recently is about boots on the ground. And I think the truth is that the boots on the ground don't need to have a dog collar above them. My role, I've worked in this diocese before, and the other dioceses I've worked in, and it's not just about me getting longer in the tooth in the job, but the full-time ministry, as seen across other dioceses, is about an enabling ministry where, in my case, I don't have to do everything, but because of experience and hopefully formation, my own formation, I am enabling other people to fulfil their God-given vocation, to be God's people wherever He's called them to be. And I think I've spent a long time encouraging our congregations not to be too vicar dependent.
Okay.
It's not scriptural, and it's clearly not what is possible in today's church. And I think the idea that people are waiting for the next vicar to appear and have something done to them by the diocese is not where we are called to be.
Okay, thank you. And I wonder, with the Authorised Local Leadership, we as a diocese have offered a framework. How is it being outworked in your context?
Okay, it's still a work in progress. We got going earlier in the autumn. Each of those 11 PCCs have had a presentation on it, and the responses have come back. We've identified the 4 areas that Authorised Local Leadership can really focus on. So you might have somebody who's very involved in mission, somebody who's very involved in pastoral care, somebody who's very good at what you might just call basic parish administration, and maybe somebody who's much more involved in enabling the leading of worship. Not necessarily themselves, but keeping an eye on our weekly shop window.
Yeah.
Each parish has had a chance to think about it, and we're now going round the second cycle and hearing what their response has been to the presentation. Some see it as being the whole PCC that actually is the engine room for Authorised Local Leadership. One of my bigger villages, it's clearly focused in one person, possibly 2. But that doesn't mean that's the model for everywhere else, either of those. And so every parish is coming up with its own possibilities. They're clearly looking within what's currently the Authorised Local Leadership of the PCC, but they've been clearly told to keep the net much wider. The filter on the net doesn't have to be that narrow. And there may be people who have historically served on the PCC, now no longer doing so, but are contributing hugely to parish life for whom this might be just the right thing.
And I guess that's one of the beauties of having a framework, is that it can be adapted and flexed and around what the local context is, even sort of parish level, not even benefice level, but really locally shaped. Mark, thank you so much for sharing with us. And Authorised Local Leadership is not a 10-week course that somebody starts and at week 1 and finishes at week 10. But Authorised Local Leadership is about identifying individuals and teams who are able to be that bridge between the worshiping community and the wider parish, to ensure that we're increasing our leadership capacity, particularly in our rural multi-parish benefices. What are the next steps? Well, if this is something that you would be interested in, I'd really encourage you to download the booklet that's on the Diocese of Ely website and pray. Pray in that sense with an open heart and an open mind to see if this is something that God's calling you as a parish to at this time. Share with the PCC, talk about it with the parish, again using that as part of the discernment process. And then please be in contact with me, because it'd be great to organise a conversation where we can explore this in a little bit more detail and we can talk about what shape it might take within your context. Once individuals have been identified, then that will be a further conversation to make sure that the adequate support and training is wrapped around them as scaffolding as they step into this role, whatever shape that role might be for you in your context. We believe that Authorised Local Leadership can be a really helpful framework in some of our multi-parish benefices across the diocese.